Hey guys, what's up? It's Esidi back with another video. Okay, so today I'm going to be showing you some PS4 and Xbox controls you can use. I'm going to be showing everything in Xbox, and then I'll have like a PS4 buttons in the top so that you know the equivalent, so you can just transfer it over and it works just as well. With these controls, you should be able to climb the ranks. It should be a lot easier for you to play Lucio and you'll also enjoy him more since you'll be able to do a lot more with him. Okay, so I know I made a video like this before on my old channel. That was very similar, but they made a lot of new changes to Lucio and also to like the settings in general for console. For example, before they didn't even have any of this colorblind options, like this wasn't a thing. My sensitivity is also different. I like to have them both the same now, and also they switched a lot of different things, like there's no interact button on the old version when I made the old video and stuff like that. So I decided it's about time to make a new video. I think the video is also like a year or two old, so yeah, it's kind of outdated, so making this one. So for the sensitivity, I stick with 75-75. I use 75-75 on every single hero, just because I like to have them all the same. Just because if I have them different, then if I switch between the heroes, it'll be just really awkward and I won't get used to any of them. That's why I keep them all the same. So it's kind of like muscle memory now, instead of having to get used to a different control layout every time, or different sensitivity every time. Aim assist strength and aim assist window size, I keep these both at 100 just because why not have extra aim assist if you can? I don't see the point of like making it harder for yourself. But if you are gonna lower it, I recommend keeping the aim assist strength all the way no matter what, but then decreasing the aim assist window size. So if you decrease it to like 10 or something, I think in my last video I had it at 10. So if you have it at lower number, that just means it will only catch the aim assist when you're closer to them. So on 100, you'll like start catching aim assist like out here. If you're on 10, you won't start catching it until you're like over him. You have to actually be over him. Yeah. So that's what that does. That's kind of personal preference, but I prefer to just have it at 100 because if you're moving around really fast, just having it over their body won't do much for you, especially if it's like a small hero like a Tracer that you have to deal with. Legacy mode, I have that off. Aim assist ease in, I leave that at 50, that's what it comes at. I haven't really tested this very much, so if you find putting it up or lowering it is better for you, you can do that, but I just leave it at what it is normally. Aim smoothing, leave that at 100. This is basically like another version of your sensitivity, so if I drop my aim smoothing down, it's kind of like your sensitivity, it's just a different feel. So if you really wanted to have like the highest sensitivity you could, you'd have 100, and then aim assist all the way down to 0, or aim smoothing all the way down to 0. So the higher it is, the slower you are, the lower it is, the faster you are. But I wouldn't really mess with this aim smoothing too much until you mess with your sensitivity first. Aim assist ease in, I leave that at 0. I'm pretty sure it starts at 0, so I just leave it there. Everything else is just normal. Vibration is personal preference. My reticle, I prefer the crosshairs over everything else. The reason crosshairs is good because it has the vertical and horizontal lines. So that means it's easier for you to line up the headshot. So if your horizontal is lined up with the head, you know you're fine there. If your vertical is lined up with the head, you know you're fine there. If you're in the middle, you kind of like have to line them both up though. But it's a good way to, before you see people, to line up where you think their head's going to be. So if you know someone's going to be around the corner and about this head height, you'll already have the horizontal arrow lined up. So once you see him, it's there. But if you just have a dot, it's kind of like, you have to actually think about where you're moving your arrow, where you're moving crosshair. Kind of personal preference on PC. I know a lot of people like to use the dot, but if you're playing on console, I don't really recommend the dot. I think crosshair is a lot better. My color, I keep it on green. Green's not really probably the best right now. I recommend having the opposite of the color that you made your enemies. So normally the enemies are outlined in red. You see I have them outlined in yellow though. If they're outlined in red, I recommend green because it contrasts against it, so it's easier to see against them. But if you have it on the yellow like I do, I recommend going through your settings and switching it to like a blue, a neon blue or something like that, because it's the opposite color and it'll stand out more. I just leave it on green because that's what I'm used to. I feel like it just doesn't feel right on any other color, so that's why I leave it on green. And actually the reason that I have it on yellow, in my opinion, I feel like they stand out more to me. Just might be what my eyes see, but I find yellow stands out more. If I go back and switch it to red, oh, it's not going to show until I restart the match, but I just feel it doesn't stand out as much. Especially in like darker colored maps, like if you play on King's Row or something, I feel like it can be really hard to see them sometimes. Yeah, that's why I play on yellow. Back to Lucio. Allied health bars, you want to keep that on for every hero no matter what pretty much. There's not really any reason you want to have it off. Hold the crossfade. I keep this off just because if you have it on, then when you're actually spawning in, you'll start on heals instead of speed, so it just takes longer to get out. And I'm just used to having it off, so that's why I keep it off. Allow backwards wall ride. There's no reason for you to have this off. If you have it off, just change that. You always want that on. Just because if you have it off, then you can only wall ride if you're going forward. You can't like jump back and wall ride like that. And that's a really important thing for Lucio, because let's say I want to fight this guy. If I don't have it on, then I have to go like this and then maybe turn around and shoot him. But if I have it on, so I can backwards wall ride, I just jump back and start shooting him. Like in mid fights, that's really important, especially like if there's like a DPS on you, you're backed up into a corner, you can't really get away unless you turn around and start jumping. But with backwards wall ride, you could just start jumping out and fighting him. So really good way for battling DPS instead of having to run away every time. For crouch, I have it on the left stick. I have this on left stick just so I can always crouch without having to mess up my aim, because if I have it on the right stick, then every time I crouch, it'll kind of mess up how I'm aiming. At least personally, that's what I find. Now, you can have it on the right stick if you want, it's just, it might mess up your aim a bit, so yeah, that's why I have it on left stick. I just find it also works really well with how you're moving, because your movement stick is the left stick, so I find they just go well together. So jump button, I have that on LT instead of A. That is because you always normally have your index finger on the LT button, so you're always able to jump. If it's on A, then you have to move your thumb off of the thumbstick onto the A button, and that just makes it so you can't aim while you're doing it, so you won't really be able to fight anybody, because while you're on walls you can't really aim. That's why I keep it on the left stick, so I can always be moving around while I'm wall riding, and that's just a lot better in my opinion. Of course, the alternative to this is if you play claw or if you have a scuff controller. If you have a scuff controller, you'll probably have, or any sort of controller like that, so like any controller with panels or buttons on the back, so elite controller, scuff controller, cinch gaming controller, or whatever. But for a normal stock controller, I would just use LT. Now ability 1, I have this on LB. Ability 1 is my crossfade. So since I have it on LT, my hand is always near this button, so I can just spam it if I want to. I can switch it back and forth really quick, and yeah, it's really good like that, instead of having to switch it to like one of the letter buttons on the right side. Otherwise, if it was like that, then I couldn't spam it. Another thing I do with this is, since I have jump on LT and my crossfade on LB, sometimes I'll put my middle finger on the jump button and then my index finger on the crossfade button so I can use both at the same time. So that's an alternative if you want to try doing this. Ability 2, which is your amp it up, I have that on A, just because for this button you don't really need to spam it at all. It's just every like 12 seconds, I think the cooldown is. Every 12 seconds then you have to click it. So it's not such a big deal for you to move your thumb off of your right stick to look, because you'll only really be messing up your aim for like a second or two. Not even, it's like instant almost. My ultimate ability, I have this on Y. I have it on Y because it's one of the abilities you don't want to accidentally click. So I have it so you actually have to move your hand position a little bit to click it. So just Y. That's how it normally is too. I think it's good. I know on PC, if it's on Q, a lot of people will accidentally click it and they call it fat fingering when you mean to click a different button, but you click the ultimate button instead. So that's why I think it's good on Y. You don't do that at all. Interact, I have this on the left stick or the left D-pad. I personally just do this because I feel like there's no other button I'm really used to having it on. You can see I don't have the B button for anything really. I could put it on B button, but I'm just used to it on left stick or left D-pad, sorry. So that's why I just leave it there. The B button's fine too. Primary fire, just normal RT, just because I'm used to that. I know some people, they prefer it on RB. So if you want to, you can switch to RB and RT buttons, but I just prefer an RT. Either way works though. Now quick melee, I have this on the right stick, so this is the stick that you use to aim. I just like this because you always have your thumb, unless you're clicking like the A button or something, you always have your thumb on this button, and it's really good because you can always punch whenever you want. This is really important for Lucio because a lot of the combos to get like a lot of damage off, you're going to need to use punches. So I'll show you for an example. The one hit combo, you shoot all 4 of your shots into the head, then you boop, and then you punch really quick. So this is how you get a one shot on a 200 HP hero. So I can show you like this. Okay, I messed it up. I don't think I was shooting him in the head. I'll show you again. See, that's the one hit combo, not one shit combo, I don't know what I'm saying. So 4 headshots, boot melee. If you don't have the melee on the right stick and you have it on like B or something, it can just mess up your aim, because in a real game scenario, they wouldn't be standing still like that, they'd be moving a little bit. And it's kind of hard to hit all 4 of those headshots when you don't even have your thumb on the actual aim button. So that's why I recommend that. Reload button, I have this on X just like it normally is. I don't really feel I need to change this at all, so that's why I leave it on that. Next weapon stuff, this doesn't matter for Lucio. So yeah, those are the main controls for Lucio. These things are all preference. They don't really have anything to do with Lucio. I would not really learn to Lucio, but I would turn up your brightness just a bit so you can see people in darker corners. If you have it too far low, then it'll be hard to see people. Now there is a way that I play differently than I did when I used these controls. Now I have my index finger on the A, B, X, and Y buttons instead of having it on the right trigger, and then my middle finger is on the right trigger. So this works differently. You don't have to really switch your layout as much. This is just because I find it easier. Now, if you're only wanting to play Lucio and stuff, I don't recommend switching your hand layout to claw at all, because it just works just as well using this layout. But if you want to use claw for like every single hero, I recommend switching it to a different layout. I can make a video on that layout in the future if you guys want. Just let me know. And if there's any other videos that you want to see, just let me know. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Hope you enjoyed. Like, comment, subscribe, and peace.